Welcome. I'm Nancy Ulrich, your host of Far+More Colorado. My guest today is Senator Linda+Newell, who represents District 26 in Colorado. Welcome, Senator Newell.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Great to be back.
Yeah, we've interviewed before, and we always have a grand conversation. Tell us a little bit about your district, in case people have forgotten that your main base is Littleton.
I live in Littleton. My district covers Littleton, Inglewood, Sheridan, the Columbine Valley, Beaumar area, and then a little piece of West Centennial, and then goes over to Greenwood Village, Cherry Hills Village, and then parts of Aurora actually now.
So is the federal prison in your area?
It is not. It is on the other side of my district.
Okay.
Yeah.
We weren't going to talk about it, but I just thought I'd clarify it. I think you're probably lucky. Before our interview, we've been talking about so many items that you're working on, but the number one we wanted to start with is your recent introduction of bills regarding keeping marijuana out of the hands of minors.
Yes, yes. So there are this year 3 bills that I'm sponsoring with that. And the latest one that I just got passed out of committee was keeping medical marijuana, legal marijuana out of the hands of children. And so that does a few things in that bill. It makes sure that there is parity in between the alcohol laws and the liquor laws and the marijuana laws. So, for instance, if a marijuana retailer sees a fraudulent ID card, then they are allowed, will be after this bill, allowed to seize that card and to call the police. So that's in parity with the liquor store owners and what they do currently with alcohol. And then it also talks or addresses the edibles, the medical marijuana edibles issues, which is the ER visits and the urgent care visits have significantly increased every year in the last 3 years with children accidentally ingesting the edibles. They see it on the counter, they think that, oh gosh, mom left a cookie or a brownie here. And so we want to make sure that the packaging is opaque and it's resealable so that the child can't get access to it. And then it clarifies that a minor is under the age of 21. And then the other 2 bills are 2 companion bills, and it really clarifies the definition of a drug-endangered child, so that we, in the Children's Code, which Social Services works with cases of child abuse and neglect, and then what law enforcement works with in the Criminal Code, we make sure that those definitions are aligned so that they'll be able to work better and all from the same hymn book, so to speak.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrific, because there was a clip on TV just the other night, and I think there was a show on one of the stations, but I couldn't see it on the listings, about Colorado and the legalization of marijuana, and how parties are held for adults, but still with the food that has marijuana in it.
Right,
and whatnot.
right.
Fascinated me.
Right.
Now, another very serious bill that you've brought is in regard to suicide prevention rates. So tell me about that bill.
Yes. Well, Colorado, we are now number 8 in the nation when it comes to suicide. And so it's getting worse. In 2012 is our latest data that it is becoming worse every year. And in fact, it is the leading cause of death for ages 10 through 34. So imagine a 5th grader contemplating and actually completing suicide. So it is a public health crisis that we're dealing with, and yet in the Office of Suicide Prevention, we have 1 person doing the job. So this bill would create a public-private commission that would advise the Office of Suicide Prevention in the priorities, making sure that not only are we collecting data, but that we have the resources in the office to analyze that data. Why this is a gorgeous state. It's beautiful, sunny, economically we're always in the top 5. So why are people committing suicide? We've had increases with veterans suicides. We've had increases in fact, the highest rate is within the working male. That's the highest suicide rate now, and the rural areas tend to have a higher rate of suicide. So we really need to get a handle on this and figure out what we need to do to address it. So
I know Rhonda Fields has brought a bill also that addresses the issue of cyberbullying that can lead to suicide as well.
I'm actually the Senate sponsor of that bill.
Okay.
So yeah, cyberbullying, and we're working on that because the targeting sometimes affects those that are more highly susceptible to attempted suicide or even completed suicide. So one of the things that we're finding is that the young females have statistically attempt suicide more, but the young male females complete suicide more. So, and they don't seek help as readily. So the cyberbullying is really part of the cause of that too.
Seems like the girls aren't reaching out either as much for help, unless the parent suspects something. Mm-hmm. If a child is cutting, for example.
Right, and that is absolutely sometimes a precursor to suicide. So those are the issues that we need to work on and figure out. On this commission, we will also have a youth representative as well, education, law enforcement, first responders, hospitals, mental health practitioners from around the state to make sure that we're all getting to the perspectives to the table to figure out why and then what do we do about it.
Yeah. And I know that hopefully we'll have time to return to your involvement with mental health issues and so forth, but I'm really glad that you're so involved because mental health has not been covered by medical insurance, and to me that's just a travesty.
It really is.
Yeah.
And now, of course, it will be, and we're doing actually a very good job of starting the integration, what they call the integration of care, so that instead of going to your primary care doc and that's all you do, you only talk about your body and you don't talk about what's going on psychologically or psychiatrically, that's a problem. And they're all related to the wellness of your body, and statistics show that. So with the integration of care, you can go to your primary care doc and you will get to have that conversation either with a fellow doc who's there or a referral in maybe a suite of doctors there. So we're really working on access to the mental health services.
That's very good news.
Yeah, nobody wants to talk about it.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yes.
So if we just start talking about it and getting the word out there, then it's just another part of our body. It's our brain.
Which can easily go off track.
Yes.
All right, we're going to pick up on a slightly lighter course here. We've had a couple of really difficult topics. I am very much in favor of recycling, and I understand that you've gotten a couple of recycling bills going in the legislature. Tell us about those.
I am too. I'm a huge fan of recycling. When we have all of these products that are made and then there's no way to get rid of them or properly dispose of them, that creates a problem in our landfills. It creates a problem for our local governments. So there are two bills that I'm sponsoring. One is the household medications. How many of us have those little bottles, sometimes many, sitting in our medicine chest or our closet, and we don't know what to do with it? So we are creating a statewide program that will allow for these collection sites that are going to be around the state now. You can go, instead of one day a year trying to get to the event in time to dump off your old prescription bottles, well now we will have those year-round available. And that is part of the problem with the prescription overdose and abuse that we've talked about before. The other recycling bill is about paint, household paint. How many of those of us have, those little cans of paint sitting in our basement or our garage, and we just don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to properly dispose of it. So currently, with the local governments do their best with their household hazardous waste collection programs. And some do better jobs than others. Some do fantastic jobs. But now with this, it's an industry-led solution, which is very creative. But across the country, this is now becoming a new model, which is called a stewardship program. So it's the paint stewardship program, and it's kind of like the batteries or the thermometers, the light bulbs, that kind of thing. But from across the state, you will be able to go into your local Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace, your little mom and pop store, and you will be able to drop off your paint cans. And what's exciting about that is that then they will turn around and handle it properly. In fact, one of the companies in my district, Green Sheen, is a company in Inglewood. They have created a process to recycle paint. And they work alongside of Habitat for Humanity, for instance, and they are able to have this process that works. You can go and purchase their recycled paint for less money than the new paint, but it's a win-win-win. The retailers like it because it drives traffic into their stores. The paint industry likes it for obvious reasons, and then the recyclers like it because you're creating an end-of-life solution for that. So yeah, I'm very, very excited about that.
Well, I was going to bring up the fact that Habitat will take paints and resell them at really very little cost.
Mm-hmm.
But of course you can't quite know what you're going to get. If you're lucky, there's a paint sample on the outside of the container.
Right.
But at least it's one way of doing it, and if you don't need a lot of paint, it works out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know.
And so they partner with this company, Green Sheen, when they want to have paint at bulk for maybe the whole house, but they don't have the same color in what's been donated to them. So now they're partnering with them to be able to have this recycling process.
That's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, I tell you. Okay, back to some serious stuff. Human trafficking. It's been brought to our attention for many years now, but we don't seem to be making much forward progress. We're still seeing foreign women being taken. You were mentioning foster children are being
targeted.
Yeah, as being very vulnerable, obviously. So talk about what you're working on that.
It is such a sad issue, and it's a critical issue because it is silent. It's hidden, and it's very similar to the cycle of domestic violence, for instance. So there is recruiting involved. They know the types of victims to look for instance, kids in foster care. They are seeking family. They are seeking someone who adopts them and who takes care of them. And they also target the homeless, especially the homeless youth and the homeless women. And then they turn around and have, produce sex trafficking out of that. And then there's the labor trafficking that has, in fact, that happened in Aurora, the domestic worker case, where held and had no wages, for instance.
Yeah.
Then you have also Greenwood Village. We had a restaurant where they were literally, the employees were literally working and were never paid. So it is really sad how this is just all around us. It's in the rural areas, urban, suburban, and it's so silent. People aren't aware of it. So really, this bill brings more attention to that. It aligns the Colorado laws with the federal uniform laws, and then we're creating this commission, or task force, I should say, that is multidisciplinary. So it's getting those people from social services, law enforcement, the community, the child advocacy groups, and it's getting them all at the table, finding out, well, now what do we do about this? So we now know in Colorado it's very prevalent. And next we need to figure out, well, how do we solve the problem? It's so complex, but I can tell you it's a bipartisan issue for sure. And what's really important is for us to get the attention out there, for people to be cognizant of it. And instead of judging somebody who's 14 years old on the side of the road or street who's being pimped out by this sex trafficker, we need to be more conscious as we're doing that and just see all the pieces of the puzzle.
And in the rural areas where the worker does not have papers and goes to the landowner or the boss and says, you know, I'd like my pay, and is turned down, I mean, there's very little recourse.
Yes, yes.
That's
the sheep herders, the farmers. Yeah, we've absolutely seen that in the rural areas.
Yeah, and then many times they're also, as are the urban folks, being kept in very substandard housing conditions.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's the other thing. Wow, there's a lot on your plate.
Right.
Well, let's focus a bit on what brought you to be interested in the mental health issues.
I am the daughter of a psychologist, so I grew up with mental health is a preventive way, just like exercise is for our physical health. Mental health counseling is, you know, preventive, and so I grew up with it. But when I got into the legislature and I saw how desperate as a state we were for bettering our mental health services, our access, I should say, and our resources, we have had horrible track record when it comes to mental health. Last year, however, we were able to get some significant reforms with Governor Hickenlooper's help to really rally all of the troops around the state and focus on mental health last year. And so with that, we are getting a new mental health hotline, and we are getting help with the crisis centers, with crisis stabilization centers that are mobile even for the rural areas. And so I, with my mentor of Senator Mo Keller, who you've probably had on this show, she really taught me the ins and outs of the mental health resources in Colorado. And so I've been working now for a few years on this issue, and now with the suicide prevention folks delving into that. But now the other issue for Colorado is this prescription overdose, which is also part of the substance abuse issues that we're dealing with. So now this year in Colorado, we are number 2 in the country when it comes to prescription abuse and overdose from opioids. So again, with Governor Hickenlooper, we are reforming our prescription drug monitoring program, and that's the electronic monitoring program that you see when you walk up to the pharmacy counter and you see that little sign that says you have to sign. That's the prescription monitoring program. So part of the problem is that not enough doctors are using it, and so we don't have the communication back and forth from the pharmacists with the docs. So the whole purpose behind the program is that you would be able to go in and see when somebody is doing the doctor shopping and literally getting prescriptions from various doctors and then turning around and either abusing or having overdose. So this bill would be able to reform that program, get better up and running as far as the IT part of it, the systems part of it, and then also give it delegated authority to the doctors, which means that they should be spending time with their patients. So this would allow the other people, maybe the advanced practice nurse or the physician's assistant, go into the system and put the data in there so that the doctor, him or herself, wouldn't have to do that. So that's one of the pieces of that that we're working on this year. And what's really exciting additionally is that we're getting $2 million from the AG, the Attorney General's office, to help with an awareness campaign.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the other piece I've gotten horrible emails and calls from parents who children have accidentally overdosed because they've taken one prescription over here and one prescription over here together, not knowing that they have contraindications with each other. So it is a huge problem for Colorado.
Well, and of course, when those types of drugs are in the house, it's always subject to a child getting into those wrongly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I mean, heaven knows that happens quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, kind of circling back a little bit to mental health, you serve on a committee that's got a huge title.
Yes.
To examine treatment for persons with mental health illnesses who are in the justice system. And you've told me that's adults and juveniles. Please expand on that.
Well, what's funny is that it's affectionately called the committee with the longest name. So the bill that we're running this year shortens the title, not a lot, but a few words. And so we call it that humorously. It is an extraordinarily serious topic, as you can imagine. So it deals with the issue of what are we doing with people with mental illness who are inside the system, who are in the criminal and juvenile justice system. And so one of the issues that we're seeing this year is actually from Senator Ulrich, who he and several of us have been working on this issue of solitary confinement, or what they call administrative segregation. Gratefully, we have Director Ramish from the Director of Corrections. He is adamantly opposed to solitary confinement. In fact, you might have seen his article in the New York Times that he actually spent 24 hours in ADSEG, or solitary confinement. And so this bill will help with just basically eradicating that from Colorado. What are other ways that we can treat those people with mental illness than to put them into a cell? And this is a small 12 by 12 cell for 23 hours of the 24-hour day, every day for long periods of time. It was never meant to be set up that way, but it's been that over years. So this bill would be reversing that trend and would be making sure that, now there are exigent circumstances, but it would make sure that we would not be putting people in there with mental illness. Well, and you can imagine just a person who didn't have any mental illness, that probably could create mental illness after a while. So the research has been horrifying. That is one of the issues that we're trying to reverse.
Even though it's a little off the topic, what's come forward with, for instance, older people, that continued socialization is so important for mental health, good mental health. And, you know, jail is an unfortunate consequence, but then to further segregate the person totally alone, I mean, that's just...
Yeah, it is. It's devastating.
And you know, we've learned things as we've gone along, but we don't seem to learn them very fast.
Right,
you know,
right.
You know, people in jail can be rehabilitated, but they need a lot of help.
Yeah, absolutely need a lot of help.
But the mental part of it is what?
And the resources, that's part of the problem. In getting the people the help, it's making sure that they have those resources. And so part of it is a financial issue as well.
Oh, yeah. We're getting close to the end of our time, so I want to ask you if there's something you would like to talk about that we haven't covered.
Well, gosh, we covered, I would say, the majority. I think one of the things that's really interesting this year for me is technology. And I now serve there. We now have a joint technology committee, which we created last year. And it helps with looking more deeply into the IT projects that we are purchasing and creating through the state. And I'm sure you've heard in the past we've had some horrific successes and horrific failures in our IT projects. So our committee looks at these and then gives recommendations to both the Joint Budget Committee as well as the Capital Development Committee. And that's been a fascinating, and I hope good government, preventive kind of work. And then the other piece with technology is that we have in Colorado, the IT companies have a 0.3% unemployment rate.
Oh boy.
0.3. So of course you can imagine what happens. They have to go out of state, out of country to find the skill set that they need. So I'm doing an advanced industries talent pipeline bill, which works with both education and the workforce development folks and business, especially the advanced industries folks, and making sure that through the Workforce Development Council that they have a focus on this crisis, because basically we're not going to have the talent. We don't have the talent today. So, but we need to grow our own talent so that we can hire Coloradans. So I'm also working on getting out there to the schools and hyping up the IT profession. It's a green job. It's high dollars. It's you can wear your jeans most of the time.
Yes, that's a good point.
And often you can do it inside your home too. So many pluses to that, but we just need to make sure that we have that talent pipeline. So I'd probably say that's the other issue that I've been working on this year.
Well, we've finished our time for our interview, and I want to thank you again sincerely. We've covered an awful lot of really good information. Thank you for being my guest once again, and continued success throughout the rest of the legislative session. Thank you all for joining us for Far More Colorado. Tune in on Sunday afternoons at 5:30 on Channel 56, or you can find us online. Far More Colorado is a public affairs interview program highlighting people of interest to Coloradans. The program has guests from our state government, and we also feature a wide variety of other guests who are making a difference here in Colorado.